If you understand how to use time to your advantage, you're going to be able to build a successful career as a filmmaker. So when I think about time, I try and hold two opposing views in my mind, and that is patience and speed. And when I think about the patience side, which is, being slow, being calm, taking your time, when I think about patience, it's at the macro scale. So I'm thinking of my career over a long time horizon, and I'm thinking, how can I be patient as I work towards that goal? Then on the micro scale, what I'm doing is I'm approaching that with speed. So I want to take as many actions as I can, as consistently and as quickly as possible, so that I can build up a compounding effect over time. And so by holding these two thoughts in my mind, I'm able to hopefully build a long-term successful career in the film industry. For you, those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Alexi Uzas. I'm a film producer. I'm based in Australia, and my company Exile Finance and produces feature films, and I make these videos to help you on your filmmaking journey. So what I want to talk about in this video is how you can use time to your advantage as a filmmaker to get to where you want to go, right? To achieve the things, to achieve the level of success that you want to achieve in this industry. So what I'm going to do is take you through the macro and how you can use patience. Then I'm going to go through micro and how you can use speed. And then what I'd like to do is show you that if you use these two things incorrectly, you can really hamper and kind of sabotage your trajectory as a filmmaker. So I want to take you through all those, give you some examples, some personal examples, some examples of other filmmakers, so that by the end of this video, hopefully you have a framework for thinking about your career over the long term. So let's start with the macro, which is patience. So basically the way that I've approached this from when I started in the film industry was really to think about, okay, if I spent 30, 40, 50 years even, depending on how old I am right now, would it be unreasonable to think that if I just kept making films, I would become successful? And I don't think it would be unreasonable, right? If you spent that long of a period of time working on one thing and getting better at it and improving over time, then it would be reasonable to think that at the end of that, you would become successful, right? Hopefully it comes earlier, right? But if you stretch that time horizon, right? So if you can change your goals from a year, 2 years, even 10 years, and stretch it out even further to like 30, 40, 50 years, then achieving that goal, A, seems much more achievable to you, and B, it does allow for this time to kick in and this compounding effect to take place and for you to achieve the success that you want to achieve. And a great example that has that I've seen recently is an Australian filmmaker called Rob Connolly. So Rob is a well-known filmmaker in Australia. I don't know him personally, but I've certainly been aware of what he's doing. And he's been making films for about 20 years, maybe even more. It could be like closer to 30 at this point. So he's in his mid-50s, and he's made a lot of great films along the way. There's no doubt, some like really also iconic Australian films. But if you look at what he's done in the last 5 years, he's just hitting his stride now. Like, he is making, films with budgets around 10 to 15 million with A-list casts. They're all getting wide releases. And I think he's actually putting out some of his best work. So he's the director of The Dry, which is an Australian film that came out a couple of years ago during COVID. And his company, so he's also had this company for a number of years. And the company is also really hitting its stride now. Like, they had 3 films premiere at TIFF at Toronto just a few weeks ago, which is huge for a company, of that size. And what's really interesting to me is that he has been at it for so long and he has been quite successful, but it's just like he's achieved this kind of growth, this explosive growth over the last few years. And to me, that just, it from the outside looking in, it looks like him just being consistent over a long period of time. And then those results just like building on each other, building until he achieves this growth or this success that he's achieving now, which is obviously so deserved given the work that he's put in. But in a way, it's also like, it's humbling because it makes you remember that actually, well, yeah, he's been at it for like 20 or 30 years. So it would be unreasonable to think that if you were at something for that long, that you wouldn't achieve that success. And so having that time horizon in mind is a really important way to use time to your advantage. I also remember when I was first starting out, I would IMDb like film producers and have a look at like, well, how long did it take them to achieve some level of success? Like, when did they make that first film that really got them to the next stage in their career? And it was typically like 10 years, and you can do this yourself. Like, look up some well-known film producers, go all the way to the start of their IMDb and just have a look at the progress, have a look at how they go from these small features to then having some cast and then slowly bigger budgets and then bang, one film kind of just catapults them. And so that was important for me to learn early on, that if you're going to go at something, then simply stretching the time horizon gives you an advantage, because suddenly you are more patient, you're more calm, you understand that things sometimes will go your way or won't go your way because you have that bigger picture in mind. Also, it helps you deal with failure. If one of your films doesn't succeed or doesn't do as well as you thought, again, that it's just one step along the way of this career that you're building over a really long time horizon. So that's how to think of patience on the macro scale. But then what you need to do is you need to basically have this opposing view or this completely opposing approach, which is on the micro scale, is you want to go really fast and you want to take consistent action over a long period of time. And so when I was first starting out, I made my first feature film, and then I decided I want to make 5 films in 5 years, because the way that I thought about it was, okay, if I've got like 10 years of making films before I'm going to achieve some level of success, if I can like short circuit that in some way, or like speed up the process in some way by just making films quicker, then I would learn quicker, I would be able to, and hopefully be able to like reach that goal quicker, or even just give myself a better chance of achieving that success in 10 years. And so that's what I set out to do. Now, I didn't hit that goal, right? Like, number one, I had no idea how I was going to do it. People thought I was crazy and laughed at me when I told them that was what I was going to do. But what I did is I focused on the actions that I needed to take to achieve that outcome. So it was almost like I set that I set that goal, and then I kind of forgot about it. I didn't sit down and work out this like grand plan of how I was going to do it. But what I did from that point on is I made sure that every day I was making consistent progress on a film. Right, so every day, whether it was like 10 minutes, half an hour, hours, whatever it was going to be, I was going to be working on a feature film and making progress and moving it forward. And so what that allowed me to do was, it ended up being my film school, right? Because I never went to film school, so I just learned everything as I went. But 2, it allowed me to start taking the actions that would be required of someone that was going to build this career in the film industry. And so over that 5 years, I actually only made 4 feature films, right? So I got to the end of that, I got to 4. But what's really interesting is that 2 years later, I made 3 feature films in 1 year. And in that same year, I helped about another 5 films get financed, right? So that's like 3 films plus 5, that's 8 in 1 year. So again, if you look at if you looked at a graph of that, it would essentially, you'd see the films and then it would just go bang. And the reason is because I had been taking that consistent action and I had been prioritizing speed, right? To me, it was always important to be making films, because if you're going to get good at something, you got to do the thing. And the thing isn't just developing. It's not just trying to finance. The thing is developing, financing, producing, marketing, distributing, right? Like seeing a film from the whole way through, from development to release. You need to be able to, or I've thought that I wanted and needed to do that as many times as possible. And that really still is my goal. You know, how do I just focus on taking consistent action on films and getting them into production? So at the micro level, speed was and still is a high priority of mine. But on the macro, I know that I can be patient, I can be calm. As long as I achieve these things over a consistent period of time, then success should come to me. Now, the two ways to make sure that success won't come to is, number one, quit. Right? Like if you take yourself out of the game, if you quit, if you give up, then you have no chance of achieving, right? Because you've just stopped. You've also, like, if you spent 5 or 10 years building up these compounding returns and then you quit, you also lose the benefit of all that effort that you just put in. So I think something really important is, you know, if you're going to commit to it, then you want to commit to it long term, because that's when you're going to see the results. The second way would be to get taken out financially, right? You just get taken out of the game and it no longer becomes feasible for you to be making films or trying to make films. And really the best way to avoid that is, number one, just make sure you you always have steady income coming in. Cash flow is really important. Number two, if you're going to invest in your films, which I personally have no issue with, like I invest in most of my films, make sure that you don't do it to the extent that it's going to send you broke, right? Or don't mortgage your house to do it, or don't put everything on the line. So you never be in a position where you could be taken down to zero and then get taken out of the game. I think film, more than anything, is just like, it is a game of who can stay in it the longest, because the longer that you can stay in it, the more chance you have of succeeding. So let's now talk about how you could approach the macro and the micro incorrectly, and how that could absolutely throw your entire trajectory off. So number one, if on the macro you were impatient rather than patient, then I think a few things could happen here. Number one, you could take the wrong action, right? By being too impatient, you're going to start going in the wrong direction, or potentially do things that won't stack up over a long period of time. That's number one. And then number two is, of course, if you're impatient, that could lead to you quitting faster, or getting taken out, right? Because you're impatient to achieve something, and so you might make an error, right? Like you might put too much money into something. So impatience, I think, when you're thinking about it, particularly in your like first few films, I think like two examples of this could be, you're impatient with the budget, right? So it's like, rather than building up a career over a period of time, like starting with that micro budget film, then raising a bit of money, then getting to like $1 million, then like 3, 5, right? And working your way up, you just straight out of the gates try and finance a $10 million film. Now, it could happen, right? Anything can happen, but the vast majority of times, like, that's not going to happen. And what's going to happen is you will spend a lot of time and energy and potentially money trying to achieve something that is, you know, very, very, very difficult to achieve. And so that would be one example. The other example could be, you know, trying to attach like an A-list actor in your first film. Again, because you're impatient, you're trying to achieve these things really quickly, you go down this wrong direction, and again, it can lead to lots of wasted time, money, energy. And in a game where I think, again, making films, like actually producing films, getting them out there is the number one goal, the less time you waste on these activities that aren't going to get you closer to that goal, the better. So that's how impatience can work against you at the macro scale. On the micro scale, if you go too slow, so rather than using speed, if you go too slow, it's almost like if you're patient on the macro, but then you're also patient on the micro, and you're kind of slow, and you know, there's no deadlines, and you kind of just make your way through it as slowly as possible. I think that is also a real issue, and it can absolutely hinder your progress. So what this looks like in practice is, you know, someone spending like 5 years developing a project, or someone spending 2 years trying to finance a project. it's really just not moving fast enough, not prioritizing speed, trying to go for perfection when like imperfection and results will do. Like imperfection and results is better than perfection with no results, or chasing perfection with no results. So that would be how, if you went slow on the micro, again, we want to stretch the time horizon, but we're all human. So there is going to be a finite number to that. And so if we spend 10 years and only make one film, like we have lost a lot of time. That's a lot of our human life that's gone. It's 1 out of potentially 4 or 5 decades where we've only made one film. And so the more that you can prioritize speed, then the more you're going to hopefully like build up those actions over a faster period of time. So that's what I wanted to explain to you on this video, and take you through just how I thought about time and how you can absolutely use it to your advantage in the film industry, as long as you hold those two opposing views and really understand them and use them to your advantage, right? So with the macro, using them to your advantage is, that results in you being calm, collected. It results in you having confidence in what you're doing, knowing that that goal is there, but there's enough time for you to reach it. And then on the micro, it looks like you taking action, being someone that's driving a project forward, holding people accountable, meeting deadlines, and those sorts of things. So that's it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope it's given you a framework through which to view your filmmaking career and your trajectory as a filmmaker. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments in the comment section below. If you have any questions, drop them in there as well. I would be happy to get back to you. And that's it for this video. We'll see you on the next one.